Hi, I'm Sam Valenti, and I am absolutely honored to be joined today by a true legend in the world of sports, the city of Chicago, and is just an all-around legend. She played the organ for the Chicago White Sox for 41 incredible seasons. The one and only Nancy Faust. Nancy, how are you doing today?
I'm great because we're here and we're having a nice talk, and it's good to be able to meet a Texan and a former Chicagoan, and now Arizona. Having a good time here, Sam.
Well, hey Nancy, like I said, it's a real honor, to be speaking with you. And of course, we are, here in Arizona right now. So, would you mind just kind of talking about how you, ended up living here part time?
Yeah, well, it was a great vacation spot because Chicago winters are so awful, and so my sister actually built a home out here about 15 years ago, and we'd come out and stay with her and visit her. And then we bit the bullet and bought our own place. And it was in the meantime, we were renting for the winter, when we decided it would be nice to own something, and we were able to pull it off. And the great thing about it is it's a small house, but it has a facility for a horse, and we do have a couple of donkeys. So we found ourselves bringing the donkeys out for the winter, but not this year, but other years we have. So we're all happy. The whole family is here. The donkeys, my husband, Joe, and me.
Oh, well, that's awesome. I think it's so cool how you ended up, living here part time. It's pretty crazy. You're splitting time between here and Chicago, so it's it's pretty different, I would say, between the two.
The differences are vast, and we feel most fortunate to have our winters here and our summers back in Chicago. More family back in Chicago, but we certainly do know a lot of transplants out here. This is where they all want to go. Arizona.
Yep, absolutely. I want to go into your background a little bit. Your mother was a musician herself. How did that kind of influence you growing up?
Well, I think I inherited my mother's good ear. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I was sitting down at a toy and playing little simple songs. So my mother was always there to guide me, but she wasn't really a teacher. She's a professional musician that played live on radio every day and accompanied a lot of vaudeville type acts. She was a wonderful, besides having a good ear and playing anything, she could also read very well and accompany singers and dancers and all kinds of acts. That's something I wasn't able to do. But I had my mom there to help me, and I just guess I was fortunate to inherit the ear that allows me to play whatever I hear. You sing a song, Sam, and I could probably play it.
Yeah. That's the amazing thing about you is that you're able to play songs just immediately.
Yeah, so I guess I say that I could attribute my longevity at the ballpark to the fact that as music changed over the years, and I listened to it, I could just play what I heard. So I wasn't steeped into just one type of polka music like Alley Cat or Roll Out the Barrel or something. I was able to change with changing music. Although now it's more of a challenge, I'm sure. To do rap, it's more of a beat, not so much a melody anymore. But it doesn't matter. I'm not playing there anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But I always had songs from the top 10 saying that I could play. So there was a lot of familiar music, as well as going back to everything I ever heard my mother play.
Of course. I know from an early age, and it's really cool. I got to meet your dog Hooper, but I know from an early age, animals have been a passion of yours.
Much more so than music.
Yes.
But music was an avenue that I was able to take to allow me to enjoy animals. I eventually made money playing, and then I could get my horse and get a dog and just do things I really enjoyed in terms of animals. But I enjoyed my job so much too once I realized I was making people happy and I was surrounded by people having a good time, fans having a good time. So I really had the best of both worlds.
What are your favorite memories of being around animals, as a kid?
Well, I had a dog, anything I could find in nature. If I could find a pigeon or something that needed help, and I'd bring it home, put it in a box, and just probably trying to nurse something back to release it. That would be very fulfilling for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I found was interesting is you majored in psychology. When you were at North Park College, yeah, I majored in psychology.
You did your homework, Sam.
Yes, I made sure I had to do my research. Because it's not often you're able to interview a legend. So I had to. But yeah, so like, how did you come across psychology? How did that?
Well, it was something I was able to get a degree in, because you didn't have to have a lot of background or music. I started out majoring in music, which seemed like a natural. I played all my life, but I then realized you have to read music. And when I see notes on those 5 lines, it makes me nervous. I couldn't do that. So I couldn't cut music as a major. I could pass my ear training courses, with flying colors. The teacher would play something and I could play it, no problem. But when it came to reading notes, I couldn't do that. So I had to switch majors in order to graduate. And psychology was something that interested me and that I learned as I went along. And I have dealt with a lot of people. I think any psychology that I use is just from my experiences with so many people at ball games. You meet the whole cross section of fans, and you love them all. Yeah. Over the years, I've just been to so many weddings and funerals and christenings and just so many functions that I've become like family with so many fans, because I've seen game after game and generation after generation.
Yeah, of course. It's it's amazing, because you played there for so long, I think it's amazing that you were able to make connections with so many different people.
I mean, I'd have people coming up and they were kids, and then they'd come up, 20 years ago. Oh, I was here when I was 10, and now this is my 10-year-old. And then pretty soon it's like, oh, my grandpa loves you. I guess it's time to retire. I've got grandfathers that are following me now instead of kids, But yeah, I've gone through the generations with good and bad stories, and just loved it so much.
Yes. And another very interesting thing, and especially for me as a Cubs fan, in February of '67, I believe you sent in a letter to the Cubs.
Well, like I said, I wasn't raised in a baseball or a sports-oriented family at all. I had never attended a game, but I was in college then, and my friends were Cubs fans, and I happened to have a close friend that wrote a letter on my behalf.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he said, you should be playing there, and nobody's playing there, so he actually wrote the letter and signed my name. But it was like, maybe you'd like me to play. It was to Mr. Wrigley, who owned the Cubs. Maybe you'd like to consider me playing the anthem for your game. And he did respond. Pardon me, it was a beautifully written letter. The guy was an English major, journalism or something. He wrote a really nice letter. Then he told me later that he did. And but he got a response, and the response was that they didn't. He said, this isn't a time of war yet. They hadn't been involved in the Vietnam War officially, and we don't want to commercialize the anthem. They didn't want to militarize sports at the time, so the answer was no. We don't feel like we need you for that, but we'll keep you in mind just as an organist. But they didn't hire me. But that was okay. It wasn't anything I was even pursuing. It was more a friend of mine I thought it would be cool if I played and they could get into games free, I suppose. But in the meantime, I was filling in for my mother, who played at a lot of luncheons, dinners, functions. And one of the functions that she couldn't make that I played for a couple years later was attended by Stu Holcomb, who at the time was the general manager of the White Sox. And so then I approached him and I did say, if you're ever looking for an organist, it's probably something I could do. And he hired me. He heard me play at the function, but that's all, And then when I showed up the first day or the day before, he gave me a list of players and he said, here's their hometown. This player is from California, here's another one from Nebraska, here's one from Iowa. Just play a state song when they come up to bat. And I did, because I knew all the state songs because of my mom. And if I didn't know a song, I could use the telephone at the organ, which was on center field in those days. And I'd call my mom and say, how does it go? Could you hum a few bars? She'd just hum it to me, and then I was able to play it and pull it off.
And then the rest was history,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, then Harry Carey was a broadcaster, and I played something based on what he said on the radio because I kept a radio at the organ. I've told this story before, but I remember he said something like, "Oh, you're going to have to carry me out of here because the game is so slow." And I heard him say that, and with that I played "Carry Me Back to Old Virginia." You don't know it, but it went like this. Or "Carry Me Back to Old Virginia," because he said, "You're going to have to carry me away." Now I would do "Carry On My Wayward Son," but that wasn't popular then. But I played that, and he made a fuss over it on the radio, and he said, "Listen to that, the organist playing my song. You should be bringing her in where people can see her." So then my third year, the management did move the organ into behind home plate, and then I was surrounded by fans. Because my first year was 1970, was the lowest attendance ever at Comiskey Park. And it was a great year for me to break in because I didn't really know what I was doing. I played when people came in the park, and I played the national anthem, I guess, and take me out to the ball game. Not much, maybe a charge here and there. But that was a great year to break in. And then by the third year, 1972, which is was that the year? That wasn't the year we got Richie Allen. I think that might have been 74. But regardless, it was just I was surrounded by people, and by then I was comfortable doing what I did and taking suggestions. And then because I was located where I was, I could see the scoreboard and any messages that were there. It wasn't animated, there was no noise, but there were messages on the scoreboard. And so I was able to play whatever the message was. I could play the jingle of Welcome Coca-Cola or Budweiser or Keebler Cookies or congratulations for your wedding. I could play a little something off whatever the scoreboard message was. And that was just so much fun for me.
Yeah, and you just mentioned Dick Allen, of course, and you use Jesus Christ Superstar as his...
Just a coincidence. I mean, I played because it was so good, and I played it because that was popular at the time, and everybody knew it. And then he'd hit a home run, and it's like, oh my God, that's his song. And that's kind of how that whole walk-up music originated, and it was so good. And then I started playing for other players. I'd say, oh, number 3, I could play Three is Company, or My Three Sons, or something with a 3 or a 7, a Magnificent 7, or a name that rhymes with something else. Vizquel, Omar Vizquel. Let's Get Physical, or a guy named Tanana. I play Yes We Have No Bananas. There was just something for everybody, and it was kind of a game, and it was another aspect of enjoyment for some at the ballpark.
Yeah. Now, if you had a walk-up song, what would it be?
I think my walk-up song, I always thought when I retired my song would have to be This Used to Be My Playground, because that's just what it was. Just, you're just going to the worst part was getting to the job. Once I got there, it was like, now I'm comfortable and I'm with my people, but just, traffic was bad all the time. Now, we didn't live too close to the park, but I played for over 3,000 games, never had an accident, so that's something.
I think it was on a show called AM Chicago, I think, and you actually talked about how, we were just talking about how that letter was sent in on your behalf to the Cubs. I think the Cubs actually then contacted you a while later.
They did twice.
Really?
Yeah, and it's funny because I only came across those letters maybe in the last 5 years when we were trying to sort through things in my basement and go, oh my God, look at these letters, and I'd forgotten all about it. But yeah, one of the letters said, when is your contract up? We'd love to have Nancy Faust here. And the other one said, I hope would you consider it? It was written 2 different times. But yeah, and that was after that Na became popular. It was before Harry left. And but I knew I had a good thing. And I did ask Bill Vack at the time when I got those letters, if I remember saying, could I do both? If the Sox are not in town, since they usually didn't play at the same time, could I? And he said, young lady, you pick one or the other. And he kind of scared me inside. I'm okay here, so but it was worth a shot. I tried, and the Cubs were good with it. They said that would be fine, but my management wasn't.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been pretty crazy. You playing the organ at Wrigley.
Only because I kind of developed, I guess, a personality, and I became known with the Sox only because Harry was always saying, "Oh, Nancy, there's Nancy on the organ." Now, if I could have been an organist in a booth tucked away someplace, it would have been fine. It would have been no different than vending, like selling popcorn at both stadiums. But because I probably developed somewhat of a personality associated with the White Sox, wouldn't have been good, I guess.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I wish that maybe you could have done some stuff with the Cubs that, as a Cubs fan, I think that would have been amazing, but
I do too.
but yeah, but yeah, you were the Sox have you, so.
Well, that's interesting because I did play for other sports teams, but
Oh,
they were
yes.
okay with that. I played for the Blackhawks, and then I had a call from Minnesota North Stars. Did you know about that?
Yeah.
And I asked my immediate boss if I could play for them. They wanted me to play for their games when I was available. And my immediate boss said, yeah, that'll be okay, but don't play for them when the Blackhawks are in Minnesota, because they're arch rivals. And it was to my demise. The bigger boss didn't like that, and so I was let go. So I just stayed with the Minnesota North Stars, and then they moved to Texas, I believe.
Yep, and now
You know that.
they're my favorite team, the Dallas
my
Stars
gosh.
now. So
Yeah.
yeah, but people in Minnesota, they're still mad about that.
Oh goodness.
Yep.
It's a great town. It was really.
Yeah, definitely. What are your favorite memories of playing at Chicago Stadium? With the Bulls and the Hawks.
Well, playing for the Blackhawks was grand because I played that pipe organ.
Oh yeah.
And just lately, some people have dug up old films of games from the Blackhawks from those years. It was in the 80s. And they'll say, what song is Nancy playing? And I thought, I never heard myself play at the stadium until lately. I'm finding it on YouTube. And it was pretty cool. Oh, it was really grand. I didn't know it sounded that good. Yeah. The other day I heard me playing, I was interviewed and then he said, could you play something? Well, we were playing the Detroit Red Wings, I believe it was. So I played a little Hail to the Victors. Oh, and it sounded good. So that was a pipe organ and that was grand. It was part of the building, so when they moved to another stadium, the organ, that was gone. And when I played for the Bulls, it was more like this, where they'd bring an electronic organ out right on the ground.
And, as you mentioned earlier, that first 1970 season, it was not good for the White Sox. It wasn't good. However, it was 1972. That was a much different story. The White Sox, I think they missed out on the playoffs, but it was a very great season. And as we mentioned earlier, Dick Allen was a huge part of that. Just seemingly, it seems like he would hit a home run every day.
And then you had Harry broadcasting now, because they brought him in the year before that in '71. Harry had a way of just making everybody want to come out and enjoy the fun. There can't be fun at the old ballpark. That was his phrase. And so you didn't want to listen at home. You wanted to be part of the action. And so people came out, and then they did have that Bat Sunday where they gave away bats, which you never do anymore. Clubbing each other.
Yep.
But and I think we just broke all kinds of attendance records in the matter of 2 years, from 400,000 to I don't know how many million plus we must have drawn in 1972. But we packed the stadium. People wanted to see Dick Allen. They wanted to bat, and they wanted to be part of the fun. Harry just promoted every aspect of fun at the ballpark. So, it's great.
It's a good thing that season happened, or else the White Sox, they could have moved.
That's
even.
Right. They say they were on the verge several times, and Dick Allen was instrumental in keeping the team there because there was so much interest.
We've been kind of talking a little bit about some of the promotions, the big theme nights that the White Sox had, and what's interesting is that in 1979 you had your own night dedicated to you.
I did.
That was Nancy Faust night.
Well, that was another Bill Veeck thing, and I had been there 10 years, so he celebrated my 10th anniversary with my picture on the tickets, and they had a big parade beforehand and gave me gifts and even a little motorcycle.
Yep, I saw that. Yep.
Do you know I just gave that up?
Really?
How many years ago was that? That was 1979, so I ran out of fingers and toes. But it's been in my house, and we left it outside, kind of got rusty. My girlfriend's husband is quite a mechanic. He said, I'll fix it up. So I said, you take it, you fix it up, and it's yours. But it was a moped. And in fact, when the Chicken, which we have a picture of here, came to town and entertained for the Cubs, remember the San Diego Chicken?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They needed a prop for him, and they wanted him to ride out on a motorcycle. and they knew that I had just gotten one as a gift. So they came to my house, picked up my little moped, brought it to the chicken so he could use it for his little stunt at Wrigley Field.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. How about that? How about that? San Diego chicken.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and it's funny because on YouTube, there's like video of the ceremony, that you had, and it was so cool. I think you were given this ginormous sandwich.
Probably, I was
And
this long.
Yeah, I was just like, wow.
There was a lot of wacky things.
Yeah, and then you're like riding around in like the car and everything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was speechless, as you could see in that. I know that what you're talking about, and I didn't know what to say. I just let the PA guy do all the talking.
Right.
It was a little embarrassing, Collins.
Yeah, I mean,
because I wasn't prepared. Yeah, that was nice.
We were just talking about the season of 1972, very magical. Well, let's talk about the most magical season, of course, 2005, where you got that gorgeous ring.
There you go, Sam.
See?
Yeah, this is the ring that was designed by Mr. Reinsdorf, the owner's wife, because she was a jewelry designer. I understand it's the only oval-shaped World Series ring, and it's very nice. It has the name, my name, Faust. Here it says it's organ, and it has our, what the record was, 99 wins, 63 losses. It says organ on it. Nobody else would want this ring. And then it's got 11-1 was the playoff.
Yep.
So it's a very nice ring. At the time, I think I had been the longest termed employee. I had been there all 30 years or so, and so I considered full time. So I got a ring.
Yep. And I would say a very well deserved ring. I would
It was
say.
a very proud moment. It was a very exciting time. I think the parade was most memorable, and the Chicagoans all of Chicago came out. I'm sure they were Cub fans too.
Oh, definitely.
And it just made us all so proud because there was no arrests and no fires and no jumping on cars or anything. It was just a proud moment, proud time for Chicago.
What memories do you have of like that night? Of getting to be a part of just the big celebration.
Oh gosh, it was on the south side of Chicago. It's a real Irish bar, and they had the monitors, and I was just playing as though it was a regular game. I was playing as a fan, as the players came up to bat, and they were doing all the cheers, and it was just like being at a game, but a smaller venue. It was very exciting. And they had banners out on the street, Go Sox. They really decorated the whole street. Yeah, it's great. Cork and Kerry still exists. In fact, I did get a call about doing I think there's a podcast that they do at Cork and Kerry, and I had a call about doing that, but like I told you, I'm not comfortable talking, so I don't know if I want to do it, but yeah, there's a lot of podcasts these days.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. I'll have to, next time in Chicago, I'll have to go there. I haven't been there yet, so I'll have to.
Yeah, please do.
I'll have to frequent it. You were such an integral part, of the experience, at White Sox games for just so many years, and really, just the culture surrounding the team. What, in your opinion, makes White Sox fans special, and just the culture, that surrounds the team?
Oh, I just think the fans, it seemed like it ran in their family as far as fandom. It was in their DNA, and you'd probably be ousted if you if you weren't born into Soxdom. So they were just great fans and just normal people. They were very responsive. What made them good? They were just loyal to the team, loyal to the south side of Chicago, loyal to their parents. That's where the bonds were made, families and friends. I always felt that they responded to my playing, and I thought, unlike other parks, they're responding. They're not just spectating; they're participating. That was cool for me. There's just something was brought out because it was so much fun that they wanted to yell, and sing along. And maybe that was the Harry influence, and the drinking on Friday nights. Friday nights, on the Friday night game around the 7th inning, you'd say, oh, and there it goes, it starts, and you'd see a beer go flying, and then pretty soon another one, and pretty soon all these beers would be flying. That's when they didn't cost so much money. But it was like a ritual on a Friday night, just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's true. It's special, the connection that you have with White Sox fans. It is.
Well, they say that they did have a good time there, and I guess it was a good time that wasn't had at the time at a lot of other parks. Now with canned music, there's a way to, with beats and things, there's a way to get people going too. But it was a first. It was very innovative at the time. It just seemed like it happened at our park years and years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember the management saying, "Oh, that na-na, that's great. Everybody's singing along. We need something new. Let's get another one." You can't predict that. It's just spontaneous. It has to. All the ingredients had to be there for participation, and they were when they started singing "Na Na Goodbye." We were vying for first place with Kansas City, on a hot summer night, and Kansas City pulled a pitcher out of, and so I played "Na Na Goodbye," and that was the first time everybody sung, sang, and massed like that, and we just never forgot that. The effects were tremendous.
Yeah. And it's, in the White Sox, music is honestly a pretty big part, just of their history. Like, there's been so many anthems for the team, of course, with you, there's Na 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 Na, you got taken after the ball game. But there's also Don't Stop Believin' from 2005.
That's true. Yeah.
There's the, Go Go White Sox song.
They resurrected that. That was an old record. In fact, when I started that, the group that did that sent me the record. I was getting tapes and records from various people that wrote Sox songs, and that was one of them. But it never made it that big. But they found that, some in the depths of somebody's cellar, and they started playing it. And unfortunately, the people that sang in that record are no longer around, I'm sure. But it became an anthem, and they're still playing it. Do, 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 do. Want to hear it?
Yeah, yes, of course.
It goes like this. Chicago's proud of you. Yeah. I sped it up a little, but that's.
Yeah, it's catchy, and I love it.
Great.
I'm sure as a Cubs fan, people should be like, oh no, you can't like that song.
I'll play a Cubs song for you. Go sing that.
And throughout, your years with the White Sox, you saw, you kind of saw the transition from, organ music to today. It's like you've said, it's mostly just canned music by a DJ these days. So like, when that was happening, what were your thoughts, just like on kind of the transition and just kind of like how it is today?
It was tough for a while there because once they had the ability to play popular songs over the air. I mean, I'd spend a week putting a song together, that was popular, and then I'd hear the DJ push a button and play it, and oh my God, now I can't play it, and I just learned it, so it was frustrating. I had to come to terms with that, and they were doing, and I mean, some organists don't play popular songs, so it was the greatest thing at many parks, but I just felt like, I can do those, I can do those songs. They don't have to always play the same songs with it, like that. Because me playing it made it a little unique because it wasn't the same song. For a while there, you'd hear the same songs at every park. I think the scoreboard directors all got together and said, hey, this song really works. Let's play Rock Around the Clock. And they all play Rock Around the Clock. Or they play, they all do the same music. And only our park would you hear it played a little differently because it was on an organ. But I think I played it pretty true to the right chords and the arrangement. I duplicated it pretty well, so it was a little discouraging, but hey, that's progress. I'm just so thankful I was there for so many years. When I was the soundtrack, and I was free to play when nobody told me not to do anything. A couple times I think I played when Chicago died at a Bulls game, and they said, and when we lost the night Chicago died, they didn't like that. But other than that, nobody ever restricted me much as far as I just did what I wanted. I knew I was on top of the world.
Yeah. I would honestly love it if almost like every MLB team just had a night where it's like it was just like organ music.
Yeah.
Just like real throwbacks.
But you have to have a good ear, and a lot of organists have to be. If you have to refer to music, there's no time. You have to
Yeah.
pay just like that.
Yeah.
And that's why it was great for me, because I can't read music, but I can, if you just said play this song, I could just do it, so it was a marriage made in heaven for me. I was in my wheelhouse at a ball game like that.
But currently you're doing some work with the great Keith Olberman on his podcast Countdown
The
with
genius.
Keith Olberman.
Yes.
So would you mind just kind of talking about how that all came about, for the people who may not know?
Well, unfortunately, like I say, I don't know much of what's going on in sports outside of Chicago. I know who Harry Carey was, and I knew our broadcasters, but we never had cable TV, so I didn't know a lot about Keith. But once I became familiar with Twitter, during COVID, my son posted me playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and he put it on opening day, and it got a lot of hits, and so I was convinced I should have my own Twitter account. Then I realized, for some reason, I saw this Keith Olberman. I knew the name, and he was saving dogs. He was promoting a dog that needed a home, and I thought, oh, I really like this guy. So I give him a like, and the next thing I know, he's following me. And I thought, Keith Olberman's following me? So I direct messaged him, and I said, yeah, thank you. And he said, well, don't you remember? I interviewed you years ago, and to tell you the truth, I didn't remember, but I guess he did, because he probably interviewed everybody, he knows everything about everything. He got into politics a bit too, though, and he burned some bridges along the way, but he certainly is well known because he put ESPN and Countdown on the map. But he went into having a daily podcast, and so then he said, do you think you could do a couple songs? Could I use your "None I Could Buy" for it? Because we'll have a little organ sound. I said, sure. And so then he said, well, how about, could you do this song for me? And he sent me a cartoon. It was a Bugs Bunny. It's what's the score, boys? What would Bugs Bunny do? I had never heard that, but I was able to listen, and I sent it back to him. I guess he's a Bugs Bunny fan. So with that, I don't know, it just kind of spiraled, and before you know it, I'd listen to his podcast, and I think, boy, if I were there, I'd be playing so much that's just whatever he says, I could play something, reflected. But so I listened to, and I not submitted, but I sent him a few other things, and he started using them, and now he's like a regular on his show, and I'm just delighted because I love his messaging. I think he's got a lot of great sources, and I think we need to listen to him, and I think he's very righteous and dignant righteous, and I'm just very proud to have a voice through music on his podcast.
March 17th, Camelback Ranch, Sox and Cubs in spring training, and you're going to be playing there. So, how excited are you for that?
I am. I actually, the year before COVID, I had one contact with the White Sox, and I said to him, we go to spring training, and Joe and I go to maybe a game or two every spring, and they're using my music. I said, maybe they'd like the real thing. I hear it over the PA. That's me playing, where I'm playing Take Me Into the Ball Game. It's a good rendition. And my friend at the ballpark said, oh, you tell them I said so. So I called Camelback, and I said, Bob's thought it'd be a good idea. Oh, great idea. So I played there 3 years ago. And then I was to play there. Then they had another date, March 11th, set for the next year. And that was the day that the whole season was canceled because of COVID. And then I didn't hear anything ever again, because the fella that hired me was gone. But then out of the blue, when we came here this year, a couple months ago, I got the call and he said, I have a sticky note on he says, I'm new here, I'm the new marketing guy, and I've got a sticky note on the wall, and it says, call Nancy Faust. So I said, who do I owe this to? And so it's Camelback Ranch Marketing that decided to do that. And it's a little bit stressful because somebody today sent me, he said, our ticket says featuring Nancy Faust performance or something like that. I said, oh my God, I better be good.
Well, hey, I'm super excited for that.
I'm excited to be back, yeah.
Yes.
You should face the camera, but.
Magnificent. Magnificent.